Well, there we go. Okay. Okay, everybody. Welcome here tonight. Before Pat gets started, just a couple of announcements. We have next week, Tuesday night, the 17th, we have Lisa Langell is going to be talking to the Lancaster Club, and our club is going to join them at 7 p.m. So she's going to be talking to us about 5 or 6 no-nos that you should be doing. So we'll find out about that. She's very good. If you've seen Lisa Langell, any of her presentations, she's very good and a superb Anza Borrego photographer, no question about it. So that's
And
Tuesday
I
night.
want to second that. Her presentations are always
Mhm.
wonderful and a different perspective.
Mhm. Also, the next item would be Thursday, the 19th, is competition night. So everybody get your images in. That includes me. Get images in by Sunday, and we'll be putting them up on Thursday night. So with that, why don't we go ahead? Pat's here. Pat Garrett is here, and he's going to talk to us tonight about uh, chaos to organized, getting all of our photo files, image files on the computer organized in a way that we'll be able to find them once again. And I think he's going to approach it through the Lightroom. So, Pat, go ahead. It's all yours.
All right, so let me just start here with a share. Okay, should be seeing my from chaos to organized.
We can see it.
Good. Yeah, there we go. Good. All right. So a couple things to cover. One is kind of a thought process behind why. Another one is, and this is, I've been I've been using Lightroom since it first came out. I was at Professional Photographers Association meeting on the East Coast when Adobe introduced Lightroom, and they gave everybody free copies of it for I don't know 1 or 2 years, and it was kind of nice. And I ended up on a focus group, and so I've had some input to it. And I am currently a pre-release, which is in front of beta. So I get to see what's coming down the pike, and I rarely actually do much testing of it, but they are so good at generally testing. Anyhow, um, there was a gentleman named Clifford Pickett, and he gave me a different thought process on it, on organization, because I never really thought of using Lightroom to reorganize my slides, my photos. And I said, huh, I never thought about that. Um, and then we'll talk a little bit about that's one-click reorganization. We'll talk about tagging of photos, how you rate your photos, and some final tips and takeaways. So why, and by the way, if you have questions along the way, just speak up. Um, why do it? I mean, have any of you ever had any of these things? Where is that photo? I know there's a photo somewhere. I have over 100,000 of them, and finding them without a tool like Lightroom would be nearly impossible. There's photos that seem to go missing. We'll talk about that kind of stuff. Um, where's that picture of my granddaughter? What about my phone photos? Can I find them? Can I differentiate them from my first digital camera, which was a 1994 digital camera? Pretty lousy quality, but nevertheless, I have some digital pictures back there. And what do you do with video? All things that we can take care of. Um, I've met and talked to lots and lots of photographers over the years, and there's probably as many different ways to organize your photos as there are people. but kind of the overriding most common way is using the basic file structure being by date. There are other ways to do it, but more often than not, I find people using some form of date. And I lean very heavily toward the 4Y and YYYY MMDD format because it always sorts the right way. If you go MMDDYY or DDD you have to be careful with your sorts to get things to come out the right way. But if you always go 4-digit year, then month, then day, it always will end up sorting right. Why not do it by subject? Well, every photo has multiple ways it could be done. It has a date, it has a who, it has a what, a why, and a where, and which one are you going to choose? So I'm a big advocate of importing photos or getting them onto my drives off of my camera. I don't want to do a lot of thinking. And as a matter of fact, it seems like some of the times when I do the thinking is when I make the most mistakes. But if it's just a routine, this is the way it happens. It just works every time. And with some caveats, Lightroom can automatically assign some of those things. The who and the where can be automatically done. I think a lot of people turn off the who. I turn it off because I've done thousands of portraits and I don't care to have all those people in my facial recognition section. So a little bit of an advertisement for Lightroom Classic. And just to be clear that I think everybody in here probably knows that Lightroom Classic has the catalog and Lightroom doesn't. Lightroom itself is a mobile or cloud-based system, though a couple years ago they added in local files. But Classic has the catalog, and it's part of the photography plan, and it's at no additional cost if you got Photoshop. One of the things that I just really count on is Lightroom Classic doesn't write over your originals. Yeah, all my originals are still there, unmodified. And a lot of them have a sidecar that contains the effective edits, but the original file is still unmodified. Lightroom is really a combination of Adobe Camera Raw and a cataloging system. It does both, and it does both very well. But one of the things that has happened is while ACR standalone or used from Photoshop is slightly different than the one built into Lightroom Classic. And they're 95% the same. There's always a few little things here and there that are different. But it's the good news is if you've ever used smart objects in Photoshop, you used Adobe Camera Raw. So you learned or probably already learned how to do all that if you're not currently a Lightroom Classic user. One of the things that's really important is collections. Collections are all virtual. There's virtual copies and collections. They're two different variations of the same thing. That's just a way of a collection is a virtual folder that you can add photos to. A actual photo, the file itself, can sit in one place on your drive and be pointed to under, let's say, travel and or portraits and or skies or whatever. If you don't use smart collections, you're really missing something. when I import photos, the other day, our club went out, the club I'm with, went out to the dunes and we had really lousy light, except at the very last second, just before the sun went down, it got underneath and we had these blazing skies. And so I imported all my photos, most of which I didn't like that much. And the ones that had the sunsets in it, I just said sunset. And it's now automatically in a folder called sunsets. And next time I want it, I'll have it. I have a folder called clouds. Um, I have a folder called 5 stars, which are my portfolio shots. Um, I even have a folder called my phone and another one called my wife's phone. And based on the camera that shot it, it throws it in there. So I could say, oh, there's all my cell phone photos versus my camera photos. Keeps them all separated. I do no work, it does it automatically. Virtual copies allows you to have a second copy virtually. It doesn't take any room. It just, everything is stored in the catalog. And the catalog gives you almost an unlimited number of ways to find a photo. On occasion, I've done things like, oh, we went out and went to the horse park watching all the jumpers. And people say, well, what kind of lens did you use? So I go in there and I say, oh, when I pull it up and say, okay, show me all the lenses I used. And it'll show me the lens and, oh, what focal lengths were those? In case I happen to use it's all stored in the metadata, but it's really easy to find in Lightroom Classic. And then the workflow is pretty straightforward. You do what I would call basic editing, color, exposure, and cropping. You can do that very nicely in ACR and the built-in part of Lightroom Classic. And then say, oh, I need to do some heavy thing around the outside. I need to expand it because it's not the right format, or I have some items I want to remove. While you can do some pixel modifications in Lightroom Classic, it's almost never as good as what you can do in Photoshop. But it's very simple. In Lightroom, you right click it and say edit it in Photoshop. It goes over to Photoshop. When you're all done, you say save, and it puts it back in Lightroom. And I don't worry about where it is or whatever. It just takes care of it. And one that I don't know how many people know this, but Lightroom Mobile is connected to your account, and you can have stuff sent from Lightroom Mobile to Lightroom Classic. And one of the ones that happens automatically is if you put the Lightroom mobile app on your phone, either an Android or an iPhone, and it has a camera app that uses the basic camera facilities of whatever phone you have, but it is Adobe Smart. And when you're done, it moves the file to Lightroom Classic. So when I get home, any of those photos that I took on my phone are already on my computer. They're already there. If I edit them in the field on my phone, those edits will be on my computer already. So it's kind of a nice structure to work with.
So when they come, I don't use Lightroom Mobile. So when they come onto your computer, are they now in Lightroom in some folder?
There is a folder, and I happen to name mine from Lightroom, and it automatically puts it in that folder, and that folder is automatically synced into your catalog. That answer the question?
So synced into my catalog under pictures or somewhere.
Well, it it's a picture, and it will be in when you get it all set up, you pick a folder that you want those folders that you took with your cell phone to go into.
Okay, cool.
And I was very original. The name of my folder that it goes into is from Lightroom. So it is, and then I color coded it, by the way. So it's a different color than all my other folders. So I know that's stuff that came across automatically. It's pretty neat. Not everybody does it, but if you're one of those people that takes a fair amount of photos on your cell phone, it's really a nice feature. Um,
Thank-
Plus, it also has some, the camera setup's actually pretty good too. I mean, it's all raw. When you're using the Lightroom mobile, it does DNGs, so they're raw files. Um, this is pretty technical, and I'm not going to spend a ton of time, but the thing that can make or break using some of these systems is your disks or your storage. And it's really important to understand the speed differentials between the old bottom spinning disks, a solid state external drive, and an internal solid state drive. It's 50 times faster on that internal drive. And 50 is a lot. Instead of taking a minute, it takes a couple seconds. So when I was helping someone reorganize their photos, they had it on an old spinning drive. It wasn't even this fast. It was slower than those numbers. And he had about 10,000 pictures, and it reorganized them perfectly. And he wrote it back to the same drive that he got it from, which makes the slow drive effectively twice as slow, because it's spinning, and it spins once to read it, spins again to write it. And so it really, really ends up being slow. Anyhow, his 10,000 photos took overnight. We started it at like 5 in the afternoon, and it finished about 8 the next morning. I did my 100,000 using the two solid states, and it took about an hour. So, 50 times is a lot. Um, so it matters. The speed of your catalog is the really important part. If you're moving all your photos around, typically that doesn't matter too much where you put the photos themselves. The catalog is used so much. That's where you want it on your fastest drive, which is typically your boot drive. But if you have the opportunity to get a solid state drive and use it as an external drive, I don't think you'll be sorry you did that. Any questions about the speed of drives?
Patrick, I don't have a speed question, but did you have to buy extra storage in Lightroom for all the photos you have?
No. Um, the I've got 10,000 photos in Lightroom, and they're taking 2 gig of my Lightroom space of the 20 gig I get. So I'm only using 10%. That's because if you start first on Lightroom Classic and move it up to the cloud, it uses a smart object. And smart objects are very, very efficient in size. So yeah, I still have about 90% of my 20 gig left. So, okay. So when you're in Lightroom, the upper left tells you the name of your catalog area, and that's kind of the big deal here. This was a special I use a different computer when I do this kind of stuff. I'm not gonna mess up my own photos if I make a mistake. Um, Although now I've done it enough time, I guess I'm pretty confident, even if I thought I messed it up, I could unmess it up. So anyhow, um, yeah, you have your catalog, and it's where everything is stored. Um, Creating new catalogs. If you're a existing user of Lightroom, there's some things to think about. Lightroom Classic. If you're brand new to Lightroom Classic, you can just go ahead and do the next couple steps I'll show you in the next few slides. If you're an existing user, you need to think about those things that sit in the catalog. The edits to JPEGs are strictly in the catalog. Virtual copies and collections are only known about in the catalog. And as with any piece of software, catalog settings and preferences are also stored in there. And so you may, or if you've changed all those, you may not get back what you thought. None of those are over, you can overcome every one of them, but at least you need to be thinking about it if you were using Lightroom Classic. And for instance, like I do, I probably have several, I know I have thousands of virtual copies out there, and I wouldn't want to lose all my virtual copies. So I would want to do something like maybe take all my virtual copies and export them as real files. So if I was going to create a new catalog, okay, totally new catalog. Again, the point is if you have a lot of photos and they're on a slow external spinning drive, it might take quite a while, including overnight.
So why would you set up a new catalog?
Um, if if you're an existing user, there's really no reason to do it. Other than I've had a couple of people say, well, I don't know where anything is. Well, Lightroom knows when, well, let me show you the next few steps and that may help because your current catalog may only have a small portion of your photos in it. And that there's thinking, this is the thinking. Well, it only knows, my current catalog only knows about a small portion of them. I want it to know about all my photos. So there's probably, you don't need a new catalog. Sometimes people just want a clean start. So you go up in your file. This is one of the differences between a Windows and a Mac, where you create a new catalog. In one, it's under File, and the other one, it's under Edit. But it's one of those two, and there's catalog options, and you click on that, and then it'll say, okay, you want to create a new one. And it says, where do you want to create it? And the catalog, I'd highly recommend putting it on your boot drive, and you go from there. This is kind of the key slide. The left side is where it's coming from. The right side's where it's going to. The top is the kind of action you're going to take. And this little piece over here is, and what other things do you want done? And what's the organization I want to use? Okay. So I knew that all of my photos, and this particular example, were somewhere under the username Patrick. Okay. And so it just picked up every photo. If it found a JPEG or a PNG or a PSD or a CR3 or an AWR, and it found all of those. And it said, fine, I got it. That's what we're going to pick up. And then on the right side, it says we're going to organize it by date. And this is using the YYMMDD, YYDD, MMDD. format. And then where do you want to put it? And you can, I said, oh, we're going to go under Patrick and we're going to put it in pictures. Okay. And I'm going to show this one because it goes down quite a ways. I'll show that on the next slide, but I want to come back up here because there's a couple of things that are important. One is don't import expected duplicates. If you have, and if you haven't been using Lightroom, you probably have more than one copy of the same photo, exactly the same photo, on your drive somewhere. And you say, what makes it the same? It's the same size, it's the same type, same dates, all the metadata inside is equal. Then it's considered a duplicate. And it says, well, you don't need two copies of it, so only take one of it, and it takes the other one, leaves the other one where it is. Move.
Pat, question
Yeah.
for you, Pat.
Yeah.
If you have virtual copies of the same photos, say you've got 5 of them in a particular file, and you want to do that import, is it going to get rid of the virtual copies, do you think?
Okay. Who asked the question about why would you use a new catalog? If you've been using a lot of virtual catalog, a lot of virtual files, virtual copies, don't use a new catalog. It can move around the real files underneath. And I don't know if you've ever done this, but I mean, you're not. The way to get in trouble with Lightroom is to go to the operating system and drag a file from one folder to another.
Exactly. Yeah.
If you do that within this structure here on the left side, it works perfectly.
Yeah.
So it's if you have a lot of virtual copies and you don't create a new catalog and you say move everything into this new structure, you won't lose a thing.
Okay. Okay.
It was kind of explained because a couple of people said, well, I want to create a new catalog. Okay, fine, you can. Here's what you lose. But if they weren't, and in a couple of cases, they didn't know where the photos were, and it was like, okay, fine. But the key here, and the thing I'd never really thought about before this Clifford Pickett, is move. And it says, I don't care where they were before, but under the supervision of Lightroom Classic, I'm going to move them into the structure over here and just put them where they are. And they'll all be there, nicely organized.
Does the system recognize that they are identical file numbers, but it's a different photo? I don't know how that happens, but I have never managed my camera when it changed after the 10,000 to a different system. I noticed that I have some duplicates by file number.
That's not a duplicate because the metadata is not the same.
Right. But when I was transferring some of the photos manually, it told me you already have this photo. Do you want to keep it or do you want to? And on occasion, I realized they were not talking about the same photo. It was the same file number only, but the photos were totally different.
Right. It's unlikely to happen if you do it by date because they're gonna, I mean, you can't, most people don't go through 10,000 photos on one day. So that would cycle through. So they'd be sitting in different folders with the same name, but they're not the same photo. So yeah, in fact, I do that particular search a lot where to find a photo, I'll only enter the last 3 digits or last 4 digits of the photo number, and it'll show me 5 or 6 copies that have that number in it. And so, yeah, it'll still work. It won't be an issue here.
My system that I have is manual, which is very time consuming, but I sorted, I don't know if it's available in Lightroom to do it that way, but I sorted by state, by location, because that's how I search my photos when I'm looking for something. The year is not as important to me as where I took the photo. So I've been to Arches, for example, so many times, and I like to store all the Arches photos in the same place.
I totally agree with you that the important thing is the location and where it was. But I would disagree with you that it shouldn't be stored by date, because if I store it by date, I have all that other information, and you say, "Oh, it's from Arches? Great, got it. Oh, it was taken with this camera. It was in this location within the city. Do you have GPS on? If you have GPS on, all that information's in there, and I'll show you that in a second."
Okay.
Okay, so this shows you how it's gonna, just given the slides that stuff had picked out of here, this is what it was gonna look like. See how it created all these full, I mean, it was gonna build this whole structure for me and move everything into it. And I didn't have to do any of the work. It's really, really nice. Oh, I thought it looked familiar. Okay, it's in the wrong key. Automated content tagging. So if your camera has GPS, then it's automatically there. You don't have to do anything. It's already stored in the metadata. A lot of people don't know that, but I'll show you that in a minute. You can do that. You can also do things like Google Photos and Dropbox. One of the things I do in mine is I export to Dropbox a full res JPEG. And there I was a little concerned about 100,000 photos in JPEG, full JPEG size. And it automatically exports them. It's an automatic function, and I'll show you that when I show my catalog. There's other software you could buy. If your camera doesn't, your phone does GPS, and I have been known to just take a photo with my phone because my camera does not have GPS on it. And I've been known to just go ahead and take one photo on my phone, which will end up in Lightroom Classic with the GPS coordinates, and it'll be at the same date and time as all the rest of the photos. So I now know all those photos were taken wherever they were. It's just a little habit I have. There's also software you can buy. There's one called GPS Pro that turns on a recorder on your phone that doesn't take very much power. And as you're walking around, it records everywhere you've been. And then when you take your photos off your camera, it matches the date and time. And it's important to have your camera have the right time. It matches the date and time and says, "Oh, this was the GPS at that time on where you were." So it can automatically do those things. I found out that Dropbox and Google Photos both have significant amount of AI capabilities. I actually stumbled across it in Dropbox. I was trying to find a Lightroom picture, a lighthouse picture, and I thought I probably might have used a keyword on it. So I went into Dropbox and gave it the keyword of lighthouse, and all these photos came up because I like lighthouses. And I started looking at the pictures, and there was a picture of the Washington Monument in it. And I thought about that a second and started smiling. And I said, okay, AI thought the Washington Monument was a lighthouse because it kind of looks like a lighthouse. So I just thought it was funny. And then I did some research, and they actually have a fair amount of AI types of things built in. And you can query for certain kinds of things. There's also other storage software you can buy that helps you automatically tag your photos when it comes in.
Patrick, I have a question. So let's say I take 10,000 photos and put them into Lightroom in the catalog, and then I say, I want to see all the photos that I have of lighthouses. Is it AI that scans every picture and says, here are all the lighthouse pictures?
No, in Lightroom, you would had to keyword them.
So that's the question I have. If I have 10,000 photos, do I have to keyword every photo?
Well, you when you import,
Mhm.
that entire import is at the same date and time and would have the same keyword. So you say import, here's the keyword. So if I imported we went down to the dunes and I took a couple hundred pictures at the dunes and I said dunes, that's it. And all of them got dunes. So yes, they all are keyworded. That's true.
So
But
just to follow up, so if I had like lighthouses in Pennsylvania or something, I would keyword Pennsylvania lighthouse, and then I have another folder that says lighthouses California, and then in Lightroom it would go, oh, these two keywords from different folders have lighthouses.
correct, it would. But I would probably do it a little different. But yes, that would work. Absolutely.
Thank you.
This is just a throw in. Everybody rates their photos. They have their own process. What I do is I literally import a group of photos. I don't know, a couple hundred, and I keep my finger on the right arrow, and then my other fingers on the one, and it starts at 0 by default, and I just go right, 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 and each one I think is worth further consideration. I give it a 1. If I think it's more than just consideration, it needs some work, but I really like it, I'd give it a 2. And so you can use these kinds of things for that kind of in process that someone was talking about. To me, if it's below a 3, it's in process. Okay. When I'm fully done with it, I will be at least a 3 or a 0. More than once I've said, we're kind of all done. I said, I may not delete it from my hard drive. I just move it to a 0 saying, I don't want this one, quote, written back automatically back up to my Dropbox. So that's the way I do mine. A lot of people use something similar to this. There's colors. You can, in Lightroom Classic, you can say there's reds and greens and blues, and you can label them that way. Some people say, oh, if it's got a red, I'm in process and it still needs further editing and etc. You can come up with your own. One of the reasons I do like the stars is the OS in both Windows and Mac does see stars. And so if I weren't in Lightroom, I could still say all my 1-star photos on my computer. So I wouldn't want to move them because then Lightroom wouldn't be able to find them anymore, but I could at least find them. And before I jump into my own drive here, backup, I ran a data center, fairly large data center, and I had 7 people that reported to me that did nothing but manage and restore hard drives. That's what they did. And every day we were dealing with that. So I'm kind of a nut about backup, and I'll show you something when we get into my actual catalog here. Okay. let's say more questions here. I'm going to stop sharing and reshare a different screen. Okay.
Patrick, you have your photos in Lightroom. What's your backup system that you use?
Okay. So I'm just going to come down here. There's a thing called Publish Services that's part of Lightroom Classic. And you can have publishing happen on any condition you want. And I have one called Smart Collections. And any photo that I make a 1-star or higher automatically gets published to Dropbox.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
So, and I mean, these go way back as some other people too. But they're, and so I played around a little bit a little earlier. And so I made some minor, when I say minor, this is just metadata changes. I did not edit any of these, but something happened with the metadata and that metadata changed. So it's no longer exactly the way it was before. So now it will upload when I say publish, and I don't want to have it right now because we're using Zoom. But when I say publish, these will all get updated. Okay, and then you can have them in any order you want. Okay. I'm going to
So
take this.
are you saying you're using Dropbox as your storage?
No, I'm using Dropbox as a backup, last case backup. So let's just talk about the import for a second. So I'm going to import something. If I put an SD card in, just the fact that I put it in, taking out my card out of my camera and plugging it into my card reader. And this is a question, how much is, I'm going to redo that. Okay. Plugging it back in, I'm plugging into the card reader. The operating system is looking at it now. Takes a few seconds and Zoom really slows things down because this usually happens in about 2 or 3 seconds, but it should automatically go over to import once that car is recognized by the operating system. I'm just going to move it over. Okay. So now I would be ready to import if I had something on this card, which I format my card after I've cleaned it off. But when I import it, I import a copy, so it would stay on here. And I don't import duplicates, and I make a second copy to an external volume. So you say, where's my backup? My backup is a spinning drive sitting over here. That's a 14 terabyte drive. So I have that. Whenever I work on a photo, there's also a copy in the cloud. So I have one copy in the cloud, one copy as a backup, and one copy on my SD card, which is my live copy. So I have 3 copies of every photo instantly. So I'm not too worried about losing a photo.
For me, those original photos are really not the issue. It's all the work I've done
Right.
to,
And
crop them and modify them in Lightroom. And
correct.
that is what I tend to be backing up.
Right.
Those better improved photos.
Yes. And that's why there's a default. How often do you want to back up your Lightroom catalog? Because all those changes you made are in the catalog. And so when you back up your catalog, you have your quote active copy and then a copy on another drive. I have 3 copies of my Lightroom catalog. I have one in the catalog in the cloud that I never use because it would take, it's just cloud's slow. But it's up there. I have one copy sitting on that spinning drive that happens, I do it once a week. And then the one that's active on my computer. So I totally agree with you. Okay. So some of these are really important. Things like make a second copy. So I could tell you, I can go bring up Finder and show you that all my last import, all my photos are sitting out there too. That's the original, another copy of it before I did anything to it. With all the modifications, I shoot RAW, and I've told in one of the preferences, it happens to be the default, so you would have to turn it off. It says, if I do anything with a raw file, create a sidecar. So it's an XMP file of the same name as the actual original. And so the XMP file contains all the edits. So the combination of those two, with or without Lightroom, will work with most programs. The operating system will actually, on my Mac, will apply the XMP file to the file. So if I open both, so okay.
Patrick, you mentioned the GPS Pro. There's an Amcrest GPS Pro. There is a GPS Pro Fleet, GPS Tracks. Do you know which one the full name of what you have?
I'd have to look. And what I'll do is I'll get the name and send it to Tim, and he can distribute it. Let me
Great.
just write to do down here. Okay. Okay. All right. So this takes care of your basic import. If you wanted to reorganize and use all the structure and stuff you have down here, you would use move instead of copy. And then everything ends up in that structure, right? And if you start with, you can actually, quote, reorganize pieces at a time. If you had decided before that the way you should organize it was by who, or maybe landscapes versus portraits. And you say, well, okay, I'll just reorganize right now into YYMMDDYY format location of the files for that. And then next time I'll do the other piece same way, and it'll start moving them all over there. Okay, so you have the other thing you can do if you shoot JPEG, copy as a DNG, which is, I thought, an interesting option. I did that a long time ago, and I haven't done that in, I don't know, 5, 7, 8 years. So okay, I'm going to cancel this. One of the things people were saying, well, how do you find some of these things? If you have GPS and you come down, and this is in the catalog, and this photo right here. And I want to know where that one was. I don't know. I may not have a GPS. Let's see if it does. It does. Okay, so that particular photo happens to have a GPS on it. I don't know where that is. However, I go to location metadata, That is
Hmm.
Monte in Rome, Italy.
Wow.
It does
So,
all.
so it took that GPS data and put that location information into your catalog.
Correct. Yep.
Can you sort it by location?
Yep.
I mean, can you choose, instead of doing it by date, can you have it sorted by location?
I see no, yes, no, I don't know a way to do that. And I don't know why I would want to, because what I'll do up here is say, let's change this to, where's location? What do you want? There's basic location. Okay, so what do you want? Now it's going to be of all my photos, and you just say, okay, Crenshaw, got it. There's all my Crenshaw photos. So they're physically sitting in YYMMDD format. That's where the file's physically sitting, but I can tell you where it is. I can tell you any information in the metadata. So I used to shoot for a newspaper, and there's certain sections like title and caption that I had to fill in every time. When you submit work to a publication, they always want this section in the metadata called title and caption. They want them filled in. And so when you search for things, you can search for text. You can say any searchable field, or you can say, no, just file names or keywords or whatever, right? And so this piece right here is where all the power of finding your photos is. It is super, super powerful. It just takes a while to get used to it. If I wanted to find, first I'm going to say none, all my photos, text, and if I say, so here's some pictures of my granddaughter, and I'm putting them in oldest to newest capture time. So there she is, really young. And that's not the best one ever.
How did you manage to do the facial recognition from baby to how does the system deal with that?
It does. And this is where it may or may not work for you. Okay. If I did facial recognition, I've got thousands of people in here, because I used to do a lot of portraits. And I mean, just high schools, I probably got, I don't know, 4,000 or 5,000 high school kids. And I don't want it doing facial recognition, so I've turned it off. But it is an option to turn it on. And I'd have to go find it. I haven't looked in a while, but this is where
Would that, would that
I would
be,
normally just go over to Google and say, okay, where in Lightroom Classic do I turn on and off facial recognition? And it would tell me, and I'd go do it.
Yeah.
so you have all these photos from your previous life. If you put those in a separate catalog and took them out of your current catalog, then you would just have the kind of facial recognition you're currently interested in. And that'd be one reason maybe to have a second catalog.
That would be a pretty good reason. And in fact, when Lightroom first came out in the 90s, the structure was such that it wasn't super efficient and fast. And one of the things they do with virtually every release is make efficiency changes to the catalog. I mean, these are highly technical things underneath and how they're going to cull out that catalog and spread it out so that it works so fast. They now estimate without delay, you can do 5 million photos in one catalog. So I'm not worried about it right now. And I don't see a reason to have them split out. I can split them out anytime I want. So again, when I import, if I'm importing a bunch of photos, and she's in them, I'll just put it right there. And another thing I might do, let's see, let's go here. And okay. So another thing, instead of using keywords, it did an import. I shot a guy's birthday, his 90th birthday, Harry's 90th birthday. And when I did the import, Lightroom created the 25, 10, 18 folder and put the 77 photos in. Okay. And instead of doing it over here in keywords, I just said, you know what? This whole folder is his stuff. And so I added the Harry's 90th to it. And now if I want to do a search, any searchable field, I could say, probably just say 90th. And there they are.
Yeah.
When it's that fast, I used to have lots of catalogs, and I got to the point where I can, if it takes a second to find them all, I don't know. But then again, I've been doing this since the late 90s. So I've kind of figured out all the different ways you can find a photo. And with the attributes, if you want to know files that you've rejected, okay, so have I, in all my photos, an attribute of rejected. Well, that's interesting. I usually delete rejected, but out of 137,000, I forgot to do it 3 times. So not too bad. So, and it was for a high school play that I shot. And I don't know how this one ended up in there, but this one is Mammoth. See, and I do these when I import the group, Mammoth Lake, photo trip, Mono Lake. Okay, so, and I just do that once for the import. If you're importing 200 photos at a time, I give it something that applies to all 200 photos, and they're all keyworded. And then I may do special stuff after that. And sometimes they add more stuff.
Patrick, can you ask Lightroom to find something that wasn't keyed? Like, show me all the photos that have, you know, a dog with dark fur. Can it like literally go, here they are?
No.
No. Okay.
Lightroom, the cloud side of Lightroom can do that. So the question earlier about, do you keep your Lightroom, my photos, do I keep them also in the cloud? And the answer is no, I don't. I only keep some photos in the cloud. Okay. And for those photos, yes, it will do that. Okay. So what you can do is, and here's, collections are kind of the key to the who, what, where questions. Okay. So smart collections. Okay. So 1 star. So I've got 31,000 photos in there that are 1 stars, and I'm pretty picky. Only 747 photos out of 137,000 I gave a 4 or 5 star. And when we get down to 1 5 stars, these are the ones my favorite photos. Okay. For one reason or another. I mean, sometimes it's because it was just hard to capture. That's why it's my favorite. Or sometimes it's just really pretty, or they're just interesting. They could be anything in here.
Mhm.
So, and then like the virtual copies,
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
the same thing, a black and white versus the color version of it. These are just very slightly different. So, yeah, the smart collections, backgrounds. So I have any photo I think would suit as a background. I just add the keyword background to it, and it ends up in this folder. Or I want to say clouds. There's all, if I want to replace a sky, there's my clouds. I can pick them. Did no work. All I did was make sure the word cloud was in either the name of the file or the name of the folder or the keyword or the title or the there's title and comments. It was somewhere. Okay. What other ones do I have here? Things I just did in the past month. Here's we're doing a photo show next week, and they said I do some cards and some coasters, and they said, "Gee, can you give us an example of some of your cards?" And I said, "Yeah, there's some, or the coasters, you know, recently modified. Here's ones that I mean, I did this today." And am I good about keywording? Well, I'm not too bad. Out of 100 and almost 140,000, roughly 30,000 of them don't have a keyword. But you don't need to keyword them all. Um, if, for instance, I go, let's see here, typically go back and start with all photos and say text, and I'm not going to find that. Okay. Now, it may have found these for a bunch of different reasons. But once I'm in that folder, if it didn't have a keyword, and I typically, when I do travel photography, I will come down here and I go into collections. And travel. And so there's Africa, Arizona, Australia, whatever I like. Eastern Canada, Western Canada, Canada, Banff, China, whatever. One that's kind of cool. I don't know how long this will take on Zoom. We'll see. Oh, and you need to go back to library. That was just Italy. Let's do all photographs. Map. That's where it was last. And this is Zoom slowing it down. Normally it shows where I've been all over the world. And it will if we give it time. But the computer's kind of busy doing Zoom.
That's cool.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then you can also print from here too. So, and give it all the stuff. And you get it pretty much set up for one or two different kinds of paper that you use and the sizes that you own, and you say, oh, save those. And then you'll find the way you see things on your monitor, and then you print it out and you say, oh, I used to do color darkroom, and I got used to saying, oh, that was too cyan or too yellow or too magenta. And so I say, add a little magenta or print out a matrix that shows, pluses and minuses of all the different colors. And I say, oh, that's the one I want. And I make an adjustment to it. And once I do it, it's pretty much locked in because my monitors are all calibrated. And if it looks like that on my screen, it'll print the way I want it to print. So, but the fine piece here is just so powerful. I have no 1-star Italy's. Interesting. Yeah, I probably only kept the good ones. And so this is my 4 terabyte high speed external drive. My Easy Store 6 terabyte is actually a 14 terabyte drive that is partitioned into 2 disk drives. One is where the Mac does all its automatic backups, and the other 6 terabytes I use for me. And that's where I have some of my really old photos. I have photos going back way, way, way back. So that's me. So
That's way back.
that's way back. That's way back. So yeah. My grandfather. Yeah. So but it's it's a nice organization, and it notice back then I used to label them family because I did professional work and I had separated them out. I no longer, but that was back a long time ago. Like I said, the early versions of Lightroom, the catalog wasn't as so efficient, and now it's so efficient. It's a convenience or a style issue now. If you want to have multiple catalogs, not an issue. There's not really a technical reason to do it. And then one of the really nice things we hadn't talked about this, if I have photos in my catalog that are offline, I can look, I'll be able to see these thumbnails, even if it's offline, sitting up in a cabinet. As it turns out, between the 6 terabytes and the 4 terabytes, that happens to be enough to hold all my photos. So between the two, all my photos are online. Any other questions?
So
Well, I've
your
got a bunch of,
so
I've got
your
a bunch of
GPS,
takeaways anyway. Go ahead, Chris.
the GPS function, I just noticed mine doesn't have it as well. So you do it simply by taking a shot with your phone, then throwing that in. Somehow that gets into your Lightroom, and then that you can match up with the photos you took at that location.
Correct. And so let's see, these were taken with the cell phone. And so that one. And so it's got the GPS, and you take and click there and copy it. And then if these photos were all taken at that location, I could say, take this to here, all those, and Well, they had a, I took these on my cell phone too. Bad choice. Oh, goodness. I'm not that good about using GPS. And just everything I seem to be clicking has GPS in it. Okay. This is some of AI stuff. I asked AI to do a Wall Street Journal version of my portrait.
Wow.
That's what it did. And I said, "Oh, make it look like a sketch." And so I did this one. I said, "Oh, how about a caricature?" And that's what it did. So what if I came out of a genie in a bottle?
So Patrick, that is exactly where I use the color stuff. Here you've got some, I use it for all my Photoshop files. I give them number 6, which is the red color.
Yep.
And so I can find by just looking at them that you could use it for AI generated as well. You could use number 7.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that way you don't even have to think about that.
Right.
You know,
what I have,
when you look at it, you just give it that number as you zoom through.
absolutely right. Yep. And see what I did is I just gave it AI creation is one of the keywords. And so I could have done a smart catalog. I didn't bother yet because so far I don't have so much it's worthwhile, but I could have done a smart collection that contained AI creation and they'd have been there. I didn't even have to think about it. They'd already be there the second I created it. So yeah,
Yeah, cool.
it's the power of finding your photos. You find it by lens. Believe it or not, you can find a photo by a lens.
For the practical use of doing this, because I have external SSDs that are pretty full, so it's a large amount of data. How would I, let's say, take a 2 terabyte drive that's full into Lightroom to organize it? How is that specifically those steps to do it and then put it back on that drive organized?
Well, it would take exactly the same amount of room as it took before. You just
Right.
need enough room so that as it's, copying and moving them around, you take it from here, move it over there.
No, I get that, but I connect my drive. I go into Lightroom, and do I select all whatever 10,000 photos to, or those are the steps I'm asking about.
Right. Okay. Let's see if I don't know exactly how you may have yours organized. There's a couple of ways to organize things. And
So Hannah, you're not using Lightroom?
I'm actually using Camera Raw because when I started, Stuart told me to use Camera Raw. I never stopped.
yeah, and
So you'd have to import them.
Yeah, no, I know that. I would have to import them, but I have worked in Lightroom. I just find the Camera Raw something that I prefer. And so when I have my drive connected, do I select all of it, including the folders I have divided in, and import them all into Lightroom at the same time?
yeah, I would do it since you have a different one. If you're going to reorganize it by date, then I would take a section at a time and I'd say, make it by dates. And it will move them, and it shouldn't take any more room than it did before. Your catalog should be on not your external drive. You want it on your internal drive. It's not that big. I think mine's like six gigabytes, something like that. It's not gigantic. And the thing that does take some room, and it would again be if you put your catalog on your main drive, is all the thumbnails it creates. They're really small, but there's just thousands and thousands and thousands of them. So they do take some room. But overall, you should be able to quote reorganize it. And and your comment about you like ACR, but oh wait, when I go into develop, it should look really familiar because it is ACR. So it's exactly the same. And the big difference is in Photoshop or in a ACR standalone, this row goes this way. It goes vertical rather than horizontal. But other than that, it's the same. And when I say that's the same, I'm going to give a 95% the same. There's a few minor differences. And in fact, one that, let me just go into all photos, text, and let's do 4297. Okay, so that's how fast it pulled up all the repetitions of 4297 I've had gone through in my camera. You were saying before you have several of them with the same name. Well, these all have the same name, but they're in
Right.
different dates, so that doesn't conflict. So, and what I'm going to do here, go to folder in library. Come on. Come on, speed up. There we go. These are already fixed. Okay, so that's the picture I originally took. And I don't believe this exists in ACR. Okay, this feature I'm going to show you, and it's one I use a lot. I'm going to go to transform. I'm going to say guided. And I want to say that is one line right there. And that is another line right there. And everything's not perfectly upright. I could be off center, it doesn't matter. That capability, there's an auto in ACR, but I don't believe guided is there. And if I was tilted as well, and I'm not, but if I were, see, it'll take care of the tilt too. So that's one of the few differences I know of. And it's a very, very powerful thing. And these transforms do exist in ACR, and you can do all this kind of stuff as well. And you can
Yes.
go crazy. You can go crazy with this stuff.
Yeah.
This is
Pat,
not a course.
I like to use the constrained crop box down there because then it cuts out everything that it crops it. Basically, it just crops it.
Yeah, the only reason I don't anymore, I used to do that, is because I can take and send it over to Photoshop and say, fill in those spots. And AI will do a pretty good job of filling them in. And so then I can decide whether I want them or not.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So anyhow, yeah, there's the library modules all about the catalog. The develop modules ACR. Okay. And the other modules don't get used very much. I mean, people that use Lightroom Classic spend almost all their time in these two modules. Um, but let's see if
Patrick,
yeah.
a question. I'm probably the slowest one on this call. Uh, you talked about uh, taking things off your phone and having them automatically go into Lightroom and different. Do you have any worksheets on this stuff that I could follow, or uh, is this a learn practice, or there's stuff on the web that I can look at?
There's
'Cause
definitely stuff on the web. The AI, if you say help me or to explain, but this is the key for that right here. And it is syncing one photo right now. Not sure what it is, but it's moving some stuff around. And when it's done, it'll have a green check mark in it. And when you turn it off and it's busy doing it, it'll say, "Oh, it's still doing it. What do you want to do?" And I just say, "Quit." And the next time you start it up, it finishes. So I never wait, as sometimes this syncing one photo just seems like it's always there. It just seems like it. I don't know what the deal is, but and this isn't every place I've been, but it kind of it's kind of a fun map. It shows you that it's not updating all the way with Zoom running, because I guarantee I have plenty of photos in California. So yeah. Anyhow, it's a fun tool. And if you've been using ACR, you know how to use the develop module. It's the same. And the thing you have to learn is the library. And Tim made the comment that, Craig made the comment that the one thing you don't want to do is go in here and go into my files here and just start moving them around.
Yeah. Mhm.
Don't do that, because location of that is stored inside the catalog. And if you move it, it's going to be pointing to the wrong spot. Now, there's ways to fix it after you've done that. Some are easy and some are not as easy. But the better news is don't move your files, don't move your picture files from the operating system. Just do it within Lightroom Classic. And if you do it within Classic, move them wherever you want. And you can even suffer what I call finger twitch, where you're moving it someplace and your finger twitches and you let it go and it ends up in some folder you didn't want it in, right? Then you can say, what was the most recent thing you did? And then it'll find it. So yeah, you can usually recover. So anyhow, enough on me. And if anybody has any questions, Craig has my contact information. We can go through some of that. It's Lightroom is the like I said, I would bet in here almost everybody knows if you use Photoshop, almost 100% you've probably used ACR, and that's the same. That's your develop module. And the orientation has changed, and a couple of the names are changed, but the functions and features are the same, and they just have a different spot to find them.
Right.
Library is the catalog. Anyhow.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop recording then. If there we go.
Patrick, I would